Everyone, welcome to our panel, AI Without the Learning Curve, okay? So I'm here today with an incredible panel. We've been spending a lot of time in the last 2 days talking about what we want to communicate and what we want to get out of this session today. But let me introduce myself and introduce the panel. My name is Emily Duban. I am with Amplify. We are an AI platform built for the creator economy. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and why that's so important today. And with me, I have Luis.
Hello, I'm Luis Esteter. I'm with HP, and I run marketing operations globally at HP.
So I'm Fabio Ranieri. I'm HP also, and I'm working also with Luis now for the last 2 days with content transformation and AI.
I'm Rishabh, not with HP. I'm with Adobe.
Kind of.
Sort of, yeah. I'm adopted by HP. So
Yeah.
I lead our technology teams at Adobe. Been with Adobe for over a decade. We're a creativity and productivity team. Our heritage is on the creativity side. So very excited to talk about AI. And I think we talked about some rules of not using the word AI because it's the...
That comes later, Rish.
Oh, sorry. Shh. All right. A little later. All right. Back to you, Emily.
Yeah, what's really funny is we're going to talk about innovation, technology, what's next. But Fabio and I also brought our old school pads and pens and papers up here. So you're never going to be able to claw that out of our hands no matter what kind of innovation's happening in the world. We're going to start with something that has been resonating as we've talked and gotten to know each other. And from our own individual workspaces, the challenges that we face individually and collectively, and what we see in the marketplace around us. And that is, how do we match the art of the possible with technology, with AI, with what we're seeing on the ground today? What does that mean in terms of the future of work? What does that mean in terms of adoption? What does it mean in terms of AI fluency? And what does it mean in terms of our day-to-day innovation? And that's going to be a major theme, and we want to make sure that, we leave you feeling like you've learned a little something from that theme. So, Luis, why don't you start us off and talk about from your perspective at HP, what the coming together of the art of the possible and what you're seeing on the ground looks like.
Great. So as you guys know, HP is a very large company. We have over 60,000 employees, 10 business units, 140 countries, 200,000 live SKUs. So that alone is a huge challenge to create content and make content available and to support sales to drive what is needed. And a quarter of those SKUs is renewed every year. So we have around 15,000 new SKUs being created every quarter, requiring content translated in 39 languages for 140 different countries. So that's the challenge we have today, and that's what we've been working to find a solution, not only on the technology side, but also on the process side, because everything starts with aligning the process, the workflow, and then piling up the solutions at the top.
Yeah, what that got us to when we talked about that was scale. I mean, the scale of what HP is endeavoring to organize and manage and operationalize requires, not only efficiency to get into the marketplace, but Fabio and I were talking about the idea of adopting at scale a beginner mentality to be able to adopt new ways of working. And Fabio, I know you're really passionate about this.
Yeah, and Luis is being super nice. It's a nightmare. It's not hard. It's a freaking nightmare. Transparent, right? And it's not because we don't have the people. We do have the people. It's just too much, right? And something that started to come up again about 2 years ago, you guys know, is it's not Gen AI. It's not AI. It's Gen AI specifically. And everyone thinks that it's easy, or everyone thinks that it's a prompt. Everyone thinks that it's, again, something that is going to happen the next week, right? And that is also a nightmare. because we have hundreds of marketeers that need to be ready for such thing. If we don't understand them and their processes and what they can do today and what they need help to move, and guys, transparent, that's not training. We train them all the time. That's not the case. It's getting tools that really work within the process, and it needs, and it's a kind of a softer mindset. It needs to help them. They need to see value, right? It's not, oh, I'm going to give you a training on Copilot. That's not going to do it, right? They're not native prompt engineers.
Yeah, we can bring it to life because we have really what you guys have been doing with Rishabh and Adobe. I think we can give a window into how you embarked. How did you make it real for HP? How did you embark on what you've been doing in terms of the future of work, adopting a beginner mentality, to analyze your own workflows and to find the solutions for problems that we might not even have identified yet. So bring us through that journey, guys, together, because it's fascinating.
Yeah, so I'll give you sort of the macro view from, if you think about HP is sort of at the forefront of thinking about the future of work. That's their strategic mission. What does that look like? And the future of work is evolved, I would say, probably in like 3 phases. Phase 1 was, pre-pandemic, when meetings used to happen over the phone or a lot in person. Then you had pandemic, and suddenly we were on Zoom calls. So the way we worked, the way we engaged, changed completely. The technology that was needed changed completely. And now we're in this buzzy phase. There's something called AI, trying to figure out what should we do with AI. Every company that's out there talks about, hey, I want to do something with AI. I don't know what exactly, but I want to do something with AI. So HP's been actually thinking, what's going to be after AI? What's beyond that when it becomes sort of mainstream versus more experimental, which is kind of what it is. So our journey started with HP, I want to say about a year or so ago, where we're sort of just problem solving on what it could be, where it's going right now. And it took a long time for us to figure out, okay, exactly what is HP trying to do. So something that Luis hit upon is we've got these 200,000 SKUs. There's a product marketer who needs to ensure that the corresponding content, the images behind it, actually make its way. The copy behind it make its way, because it impacts the bottom line of what sales can sell. So if those products are not there on their .com or their channel partners, sales cannot sell it anymore. So how do we accelerate that, but do it in a fashion where you're not just throwing more FUD, you're not throwing more bodies at it, but how can you automate while using AI to drive some of the smarts as well?
And let me just add something. And all of that without thinking about buying tools, because it's very easy. You go to the market and you buy 3, 4, 5 different tools, standalone ones, that will solve parts of the problem, but will not address the number one need. So it's a matter of building a solution, and the tools are going to be a consequence of that. But the end goal is, how do we solve a problem using what is available and partnering, of course, with a company that can keep up with the technology advance?
Well, we talked about, and Fabio, we spent a lot of time on this yesterday together, which is this idea that a tool stack is some type of fixed, solution set that you have. But in a world where it's evolving and we're in perpetual beta, then there's a mandate to iterate and test and learn as you develop your solution. We've seen that at RAD, where it takes 18 months sometimes to iterate and build together, and not just have someone say your tool works off the shelf or it doesn't. And I'd love you guys to talk about how you did that at the scale with your people and how you did it with Adobe.
So the most important thing for us is that we did not get to a conclusion day 0. We had no idea day 0. Transparent. Our idea was completely wrong at day 0, right? We tested, my team specifically, more than 30 different tools and solutions until we got to a point that we said, I think we know what the hell we want.
Okay, so let me just play that back. You tested over 30 tools before you really identified what you wanted. And when you say testing, were you building with? Were you putting hands on keyboards? Like, what did testing look like in this world of trying to collapse that learning curve, for, like you said, for your, marketing and sales and, all the way down the line?
To be honest, it was everything. We built it together. We basically had hands-on keyboards, prompt engineers, etc. But the thing that for us was a surprise, I'm not vouching for Adobe, which is now becoming a big partner for this discussion, is that most of this mindset of let's build it together usually comes from smaller companies. And we usually remember stories as humans, right? And I'll tell you guys one, which was an amazing one. We got to a point that we realized there was one piece of the solution that no one could solve it. And we tried everything. HP has a big problem with its products. Our products have keyboards, and these keyboards are really hard to do at scale to emulate with AI, okay? We got to a point that we said, we know what we want, we're not finding the technology on the market. We tried everything. You guys are gonna learn something called a LoRa, which is kind of optimization of AI process. And one day, by talking to one of the friends at Adobe, we said, hey, we have this problem. Do you guys want to check it out and see if you can do something? And that's where about 6 months ago, the whole thing changed. And Adobe came up and said, hey, I think we can solve this thing. So, but we had to experiment and test as much as we could to understand what the hell we wanted. And it was not just the discussion on the vaporware. The vaporware is not going to work. If someone is knocking on your door, oh, I'm going to fix this, and then you're going to have someone else fixing something else and else and else and else. The problem that we have is I don't have body to control 300 suppliers. So who is going to really sit with us, understand what needs to be created, and deliver?
So, Rish, what was it like on the Adobe side when you have this monster HP knocking at your door saying, let's play?
Well, I think I learned a lot about how HP works, spending the last 6 to 8 months with Fabio and his team every day on how hardware should look, the different ports, the entire manufacturing process. And I'll be very candid. When we walked in, we knew we could do bits and pieces of it, but not the whole thing. And that's what we were trying to figure out with them is, how does it really work? How will it work? So that's kind of what we're going after, is co-creating that solution. Because candidly, there is nobody who can do end-to-end the whole thing out of the gates. Because all this is new, right? The whole AI thing is still emerging. We're figuring it out, how it fits, and where it does not fit. And that's part of our journey together.
So what I'm hearing you guys say, though, is that you really flipped the script. You didn't start with product first. Let's fix or iterate on a product. You started with, let's iterate on the solution. And so you went solution first versus product first, which I think is the big shift in terms of really how to manage the landscape and ultimately how to do what we talked about earlier, how to adopt that beginner mentality instead of a product first focus, which is, binary.
I would say even different than that. We went, what's going to break? Okay. So, and again, we knew the image was probably going to break, which we knew that was breaking already. But the second part was the marketeer is going to break. That was the problem. The problem was not even the keyboard on the computer. It was like, I don't have 300 people that can do prompt engineering tomorrow. And I'm not going to be able to train them just because I'm giving a co-pilot course on it. So that was for us, that was the click that we said, I need to enable people to do their best over new technology. That was the one.
Yeah, and if I was to sort of abstract from this, right, the big shift coming out of this experience overall is the product itself, like irrespective of what company you're at, right, whether you do hardware, software, anything, consumer product, those things are all changing so fast. Marketing has to evolve as well, because typically there's like a delay and a gap between when product gets built, when marketing gets involved. Now they need to be a lot closer to ensure anything that comes out from product, marketing is able to adapt, whether it's in event marketing, whether you're doing outbound campaign marketing, you've got to be a lot closer. And that's kind of what we're learning from our experience as well.
Yeah, we were commenting on in our business at RAD, we are so close. Our development, our marketing, our go-to-market, our sales is so close because the product development cycle is never ending. I mean, whenever anybody says, oh, we're an expert at this, we start like hysterical laughing because it all just changed like while you were walking down the hall, right? To tell us that you were an expert. So this idea of collapsing within all of the teams is really interesting as well. Talk about this too.
Yes, and also how we deliver a good experience. Because when we think about AI without a learning curve, empowering marketeers to create more, it's all about how do we leverage their knowledge, their creativity, to using the new process, using the new technology, enable them to go way beyond what is there without feeling that they're having to change a lot. So it's like, how do you work without feeling that you are working?
So practically, like, what's a practical example of that? Or for any of you guys, you know, because some of this stuff is like big idea stuff, right? Adopt a beginner mentality and, you know, don't move with just a product first. And how is, you know, we're going to collapse all the different groups within an organization. But practically, is there a takeaway that you're living with, right? That you're saying, I'm so glad that we went through this experience together because now this is a practical piece of advice we can pass on to this group.
So something that happened in the last Adobe workshop, we have, again, 200,000 SKUs, right? We sell in 140 countries. And the marketeer might be here in California, right? They don't know how the Korean market works, the Indian market, the Brazilian market. They cannot. They're human, right? But can I do something that is going to help them? Can I bring the insights in a digested way, in a meaningful way? Can I iterate faster? And I remember at the end of the workshop that we did the prioritization on what it was. The things that the marketeers were asking for, which is a feature that we put a fancy name on it, Smart Brief, it was unexpected. You're saying, I want to know more about. I want to know more about the product that I might not know so much because I'm doing 50 platforms at once. I might want to know how this will react with a synthetic persona that is sitting on India, how that will react with, again, performance information that I already have. So they are open, and I think one thing on big companies, everyone is like, they're not open to having to learn prompt engineering, but they're open to learn more about the audience, more about the product, more about what's going on. Just find a way to make digestible, find a way to make it fun. And even a joke that we had, this thing needs to look much more like Duolingo than Workforce, you know?
Right, yeah.
Workday, sorry, not Workforce.
I, as a technologist, I think we are guilty of introducing a lot of noise in the system, more tools, more features, more bells and whistles. And I mean, our big takeaway is how do we sort of reduce the noise, make it easier for a marketer to get their job done? They don't care about the number of buttons they need to press. How do we make it simple? The Duolingo mentality, I think that's kind of the mantra going forward.
Let me go for something that it was a fun test that we did, and it changed a lot the experience from what we want from now on. How are we training marketeers today? Again, PowerPoint presentations, video presentations, and etc. And again, this is how you put a prompt. What if we do the opposite? What if we basically, while they are creating and visualizing the same way that they do with an agency, we explain what the hell is going on the back and start showing them that they created based on this.
It's such a great beginner mentality example, right? What if we just throw out the way that we normally do it? Which brings us to, I know we're coming to a close, but talking about a beginner mentality, talking about what's next, talking about the future state, we found ourselves a Longhorn. So we've got Luis here, who happens to be I'm sorry, Philippe here, who happens to be the son of Luis, who's at the Macomb School of Business at UT, class of 2027, right? And we asked Luis, because we felt like kind of imposter syndrome if we weren't talking to the real beginners in the beginner mentality. And so we asked Luis to come help us understand. You're speaking for your entire generation here, so no pressure. Help us understand what you want us to know. You're in school, in the classroom. We've got some senior leaders, some big companies, some startups. What do you want us to know?
Thank you. So, I mean, I think that now more than ever, in a time where we're kind of experiencing so much change, I think it's a change in learning through that change and just different advancements in technology. There is a real interesting way in which these two generations can collaborate in learning. And so, I mean, honestly, I think my challenge to you would be, don't be afraid to learn from my experiences, and I won't be afraid to learn from what you have walked through. And I think that, honestly, those things are crucial for us to work together to power the future and just find a solution between generations.
My baby. My baby.
Thank you. So, oh, guys. So then we also said what we wanted to end with today is probably the most important thing of the festival, buzzword bingo. We said, what is, of all of the buzzwords that we've heard at the festival, okay?
AI.
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 So we are challenging everyone at the festival, you guys first. We want to get a commitment that not one person is going to say AI for the rest of the day. Nothing. And we want you to replace AI with the word taco.
Taco.
Okay?
You guys are in Austin.
We're in Texas, in Austin.
So that's our panel. I hope you guys took away the energy, the power, the excitement that we all feel working in our fields today. I think we have a couple of minutes for any questions, if anyone has any, or we're going to be floating around for the rest of the day if you want to pull us aside. But we're so happy to be here in this industry with you today. Thank you.
Great job. Let's give it up for
Thanks,
this
Emily.
panel.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
So exciting.